right, welcome to the University of Maine, and thank you for joining us. I'm Chef Rob Dumas, and I'm joined here today by Dr. Colt Knight, and we are doing a series of videos on taking chicken to market forms. We're using some lovely chickens that have been pasture raised at Witter Farm here by the students in the Animal and Veterinary Science program, and we're going to take these to a variety of different cuts in the next few videos. So we're going to go ahead and start a video here, and we're going to break down this whole chicken into some boneless cuts. So we're going to show a boneless breast, boneless thighs, we're going to show drums, and we're going to show wings. And we're going to start out by loosening up the skin between the breasts and the leg quarters. This will help you get good skin coverage on the breasts when you prepare them, and the skin is going to get really nice and crispy, and it's going to also protect the meat from overcooking. So good skin coverage is a good thing. So now that I've created some space, I'm going to start by making some shallow cuts, just cutting through the skin, staying close to the drum and away from the breast. And that's going to create a little bit of space there. And you do want to be careful to cut all the way down. I'm going to repeat that process on the opposite side. Now, one note to talk about is using the right type of knife for meat processing. So this is a boning knife here. It's nice and sharp, and it's fairly stiff, and it also has a low profile blade so you can get it into places. Big chef knives and stuff are not great for cutting up chicken. So now that we've got the skin cut, we're going to dislocate that thigh bone from the backbone, okay? So you can feel it pop, and you might have even been able to see that, but you'll see that ball joint pop out, and now we know we've created some space. So I'm going to do a neat trick here that I learned. We're going to take our knife, and we're going to follow right along that backbone. We want to leave as much meat on that thigh as possible and as little on the backbone, because we're not going to keep and cook the backbone. When you get to that socket joint, hold your knife there and give the chicken a little tug, and you'll get the entire oyster out of the chicken. And that's the oyster right there. Really yummy piece of chicken right there, and you'll see the nice clean exit there. We're going to repeat that process on the opposite side. Again, following along the backbone as close as possible, stopping when you get to the socket and giving it a little bit of a tug, and then you get that whole lovely oyster right out of there. And cool chef tip, I've even worked for a chef that used to cut these off of the thighs, save them set aside, fry them up, and serve them as a chicken oyster, which is kind of a fun play on words there. But pretty tasty piece of chicken. So now we have our breast, and we still have our wings attached. I like to leave the wings attached because they provide some stability to keep the chicken from moving around. One other thing to note, in the front of the breast here is the wishbone. Some folks will tell you to take the wishbone out. I have found that the trouble that you go through to get it out doesn't increase your yield enough to make it worth it in a busy processing setting. If I was working in a fine dining restaurant, I would stress over getting that out for perfection, but here it doesn't really matter. So our next cut, we're going to follow what's called the Keelbone. So you can see there's a natural line between the breasts. We're going to take our knife, and we're going to make a shallow cut going cleanly through the skin from the front all the way to the back. And I like to make sure that I get the skin completely separated. Now I'm going to work towards myself, and I'm going to start on the inside of the keel bone, making a series of shallow cuts, right? And so the idea here again is to leave as much meat as possible on the breast and as little as possible on the carcass, right? And so a series of shallow cuts, rolling that breast away from the carcass and towards you. Okay, and you can use your fingers to kind of pull on it a little bit, create a little bit of space. And now as you get to this point here, you'll see your tenderloin, and you'll see the tendon of the tenderloin connecting to the chicken right at a joint. You can pass through that joint with zero effort from your knife and separate the breast from the carcass. So now we've got our breast with the wing still attached, and we'll set that on the tray. We're going to revisit that and clean it up in a second. Did a pretty good job, left a little bit of meat, but not too much. And we're going to repeat that process on the opposite side. Okay? Again, we're going to make a series of shallow cuts, following along the curvature of the carcass, trying to remove as much of the meat as possible, leaving as little on the carcass as you can. Now, some meat on the carcass isn't a bad thing. I highly encourage anyone who's cutting up a whole chicken to save that chicken carcass and make your own homemade stock. There is no comparison between the stuff you buy in the jar at the grocery store or the can or whatever and what you can make at home. They are night and day different products. So this is the key to many wonderful meals, even though it doesn't look like much as you're looking at it. Now you can see there's a little bit of meat here behind the wishbone. You know, again, if you make stock with this, you can pick that meat off and throw it in a soup or a pot pie. One other thing worth mentioning is the skin. If you render down that chicken skin, you get this really lovely rendered chicken fat, and people would call that schmaltz. Schmaltz is a wonderful fat to cook potatoes in or any other vegetable. I always take the time to clean up all of my chicken fat and render it down. So I will have a bone pile, a chicken fat pile, and then I take the pig oil gland off, and I normally discard that out of superstition that it could add some off flavors to my stock. So we've now got our chicken breast here on the board, and we are going to take the wings off of it. So the wing is really only attached by skin here. There's no bones attaching it. So I like to flip it over and just cut that right off. Now this is what you might call like a party wing or something like that. You could fry this whole. In another video, I'll show the breakdown to the drum and the flat, but I like to just fold those up. A real pretty little piece right there. Now all that's left here for this breast is to remove the excess skin. So we had a little bit of skin from the neck. We're going to take that off. We're going to do the same thing here at the bottom. We're just going to take that excess skin off. And then on the underside of it, you've got your tender, right? So the tender will more or less lift out with very little cutting. This is the original chicken tender before they started cutting up breasts because tenders got so darn popular. So we'll set that there. So really nice boneless breast. This is a super easy, fast dinner. Also, you know, very quick cooking, very easy to cook. So we're going to start again, same process here. We're going to take our wing right off. Okay. We're going to fold that up just so we get that pretty presentation. Set that right next to our other one here. And then we're going to trim the excess skin on this. So we'll take the tender off while we're upside down already. Okay. So again, it lifts up on its own, slides right out. Set that there. And again, we got some excess skin here on this from the neck, so we're going to cut that off and we're going to put it in our skin pile. So we have it for schmaltz. And we got another lovely chicken breast right there. And then the leg quarters, you can leave them just like this, or you can go ahead and you can separate them into the drums and the thighs. And I'll slow down a little bit on this next one to really illustrate that. So right here, there's a line of fat. And that, if you cut through that line of fat, it will take you right between the thigh bone and the drum bone. So see how little effort that took? It's not because I have a sharp knife, it's because I cut through the space in between. And then for this video, we're going to show you how to take the bone out of the thigh so that in addition to the boneless breast, you have a boneless thigh. And these are a wonderful quick cut for cooking. Makes an amazing fried chicken sandwich. Also very good for stir fries or fried chicken for like a General Tso's or orange chicken or sesame. So to take the bone out, you can see that the bone just runs one direction, pretty simple. We're going to start by making a series of cuts right down to the bone and creating a little bit of space so that the meat will lay away from the bone. And then we're going to come under the bone in the front here and we're going to clear away. We're going to try to separate the meat from the bone, and again leaving as much meat on the thigh and as little on the bone as possible. All right. So we're going to scrape with the edge of our knife until we get down to the end of the bone here, and then we're just simply going to make a little bit of a cut. Now, I will be a little bit more, liberal about the amount of meat that I will cut off at the bottom because there is some cartilage and whatnot on that bone that you don't want to leave on your boneless thigh. So now you see we've got a lovely boneless thigh. We'll set that on our board and we'll repeat one more time on this one. So again, you can see the line of fat. Make a series of cuts, opening that meat up a little bit, getting it to lay back. Okay, go down. Then we're going to come under in the front, passing through, trying not to leave too much meat on the bone. There we go. Now we're nice and free. We're going to hold that bone and give it a scrape until we get down to the end, and at that point we will make a little cut here, being cautious not to leave behind any cartilage or bone. And so again, do a little check just to make sure we didn't leave anything tough behind. And we've got another lovely boneless thigh. Now some folks like boneless, skinless, so you could pull the skin off of that if you wanted to, but I think you're missing out on the best part of the chicken. So we have our stock, our skin for schmaltz, boneless thighs, drums, boneless breasts, party wings, and chicken tenderloins. I hope you enjoyed the video.
This video was brought to you by the University of Maine Cooperative Extension Grazing Behavior Lab and the Dr. Matthew Hyland's Pilot Plant. We would also like to extend a special thanks to the J. Franklin Witter Undergraduate Research Endowment Fund for providing the chicken.